Welcome back. I'm Doc Jen.
And I'm Dr. Dom.
And we are coming at you today to talk about IT band syndrome, a super popular one about the knee pain that happens on the side. So we're excited to go into all the tips, tricks, and reasons why it might be happening in your body.
So what is the IT band? It is the iliotibial band because it goes from this big bone on our side, the iliacus or the iliac crest, all the way down to the tibia, which is the bone just below the knee. So it's this huge layer of dense fascia that a bunch of muscles attach into and a lot of forces work through. And why do we have the IT band?
So the IT band was really, created over time in this thickness. As humans, we walk forward and backward, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, yes, we want to move side to side, and we do at times, but it's not our main force of how we move. So locomotion-wise, we go forward and back. And so the IT band was really built on the side of our body to help kind of fight off the forces of falling to the side. So instead of just having that hip or that knee or that leg fall to the side, that IT band is kind of there to structurally help support you and keep you moving forward.
Yeah, anytime you lift one leg up and you're kind of standing on one leg, the IT band is basically taking all of that force through the whole thing. Of course, we have our glute and our lateral muscles that are kind of helping keep us up, but to prevent us from tilting right over. So why do people feel pain through this thing so much?
So the most common thing is that it's known as a friction injury. So you kind of get right at the knee. So right where that IT band, again, that thick layer of that connective tissue, that fascia, if we look at it anatomy wise, it's just going to look like this white layer of tissue. Mm-hmm. And that's going to go down on the side of the knee. And then again, like Dom said, attach lower into that lower leg. Well, when it crosses that knee joint right there, that's where a lot of people end up feeling that friction and that pain and that rubbing. And we can even sometimes touch the side, and when you extend or bend and move and extend that leg, that lower leg, and kind of straighten that knee, that's when you start to feel that pain. Or say that you step down and down from a step or up on a step, and again, we touch and we put pressure on that side of that knee while it's doing it, and you say, oh, that is exactly my pain. That's usually how we diagnose IT band syndrome.
Yeah, and then everyone will ask say that's great. Now how do I fix it?
Yeah.
And that's the thing that is really difficult to kind of dice through, because we just said it's this huge layer of fascia or tissue that runs down our leg, and there are so many big muscles that attach directly into it or are at work around it. So up in our hip, we've got our glutes, our big glute max on the back that really extends the leg, our glute medius that are on the side of the hips that rotate the hip and also work on moving our leg outward, our tensor fasciae latae,
coffee muscle,
like you're sipping on a latte, that is an internal rotator of the hip that also attaches into it. Also, we have our quads, these big muscles on the front of the leg that extend the knee, or our hamstrings that flex or bend the knee back. Those might not attach directly into the IT band, but they attach right on the lateral side of the leg. And the way fascia works, if there are things pulling at different fascial planes on the lateral side of the leg, also right by that IT band, they're going to put different forces through. So like I said, a lot of the biggest muscles in our legs all attaching into or right around this IT band.
Right. And so that's why a lot of people then say, well, let me just foam roll it out. Let me take a foam roller and try to just get into that IT band and roll out.
Stretch it out.
And break up that fascia layer.
Break up the tissue. Good luck.
Yeah, exactly. Unless someone is, what are those huge trucks?
Semi-truck?
A steamroller?
A steamroller, yes.
So unless someone is taking a steamroller to your side, you're probably not going to affect that fascial tissue into that IT band at all.
Yeah, I think something else would probably give before the IT band gave if we brought a steamroller around. So don't try that at home, folks.
No, please don't.
Why isn't it effective to use these foam rollers or whatever, because some people might say, hey, I do it and it feels better for a little bit, and okay, great, it does feel better, because although we're not breaking up any fascial tissue or breaking up anything or elongating that IT band, we are still getting a mechanical effect into the muscles and into the nerves that are in that area. All tissue work, all soft tissue or manual work is going to have an effect on what our brain is perceiving in that area. So we get this process called mechanical gating, where, okay, when something hurts, we rub it and it distracts our brain to say, it's okay, let's calm things down in that area a little bit. But a lot of the times that's just for a short-lived time. Again, not that that's not effective or can't be effective if done really thoughtfully and then followed up with some other investigation into how the muscles at the hip are working, and then maybe strengthening in certain areas, maybe working on different stability that might be that underlying cause as to why we were getting that friction in the first place.
And I just want to say, for some people, it doesn't feel good. So if you are rolling on your IT band because you think that's going to be the fix and you're like, it is so painful, I'm wincing, I'm hurting, don't do it.
Don't do it.
And where I like to usually guide people in, if you do want a foam roll, because again, getting that stimulation, getting that touch, getting that feedback into the muscle tissue and allowing that reduction of tension. Again, it's not breaking up scar tissue, but if we can help fluids to move a little bit better, if we can help to decrease that stimulation and that feeling of tightness, which is essentially what we're doing, start at the quad. Okay, start at the front of the thigh, start at the back of the thigh, and don't go directly on the IT band, because for a lot of people, that's a super sensitive area. And there's no need, because again, we're not elongating or breaking up that IT band, so there's no need to be directly on that tissue. And another thing I like to bring up, like one of my professors in biomechanics, Dr. Lin, shout out, he would always talk about too, if this is a friction syndrome, meaning it's a rubbing, why are we then creating more friction and rubbing by doing the foam roller or rolling onto that IT band, a lot? Why are we doing that and creating more friction on a friction type syndrome?
Yeah, we have to find the things that are going to help take the tension out of there. And sometimes addressing the muscles that are putting the tension into that area in the first place is a great start.
Yeah.
In a lot of instances, I think it's a control issue as to how the leg is operating in general and as a whole. People will point up to the hip and say, oh, we've got to work on the hip muscles. Yeah, we should know how our glutes are working, how our adductors or the muscles on the inside of our leg are working on the inner thigh, and all the way down through the foot. How is that impacting the way that our foot is rotated while we're walking or while we're stepping through that? Because trust me, we are habitual beings, and if we do something 1,000 or 10,000 times a day, that's what starts to create these different habits and different tensions through our leg. So becoming aware of our own habits and trying to address why we may be putting pressure through that in a certain way is a great place to start.
And that's why I like to say, because then a lot of people say, well, I don't know how am I too far out? Am I too far in? Am I walking the correct way? And it gets really stressful, right? To say, well, I don't know how to increase my awareness, and what should I be paying attention to? And so that's where I like to just say, okay, what have you been neglecting? Like, let's take out what's moving correctly and how should it be moving and what's the right way and wrong way and all of that. Let's take that off the table. Let's just think about, have you even become aware of your toes and what they're doing outside of walking, outside of anything? Can they separate? So look at your hand, see how your fingers can separate. Well, honestly, the toes should be able to do that separation as well. And if that's a super difficult thing, this is the thing that you then get to just start adding in, because the muscles at the toes also connect all the way down through the foot. And if we can help to bring that connection back into the bottom of the foot, we help to bring the connection all the way up the chain.
Well, and when we talk about those toe muscles, like some of them actually come all the way up and connect almost up into the knee. And so that's something that you can be aware of at the toe. One thing that I like to talk people into is just standing on one leg, because we mentioned right away that standing on one leg, the IT band is one of the things that was developed so that we don't fall right over. So if you come and stand on one leg, does the hip that you're standing on, or the leg that you're standing on, does that hip kind of pop out to the side? If so, that lets us know that we're kind of letting ourselves rest into that hip. So standing on one leg and just trying to stand nice and tall. So we're standing over that leg, not letting our hip kind of rest into itself. That's another thing that we can start to try and become aware of. And trust me, if you stand on one leg for a minute for the rest of your life on each side every day, you're going to be a lot more functional in walking, in doing all sorts of functional activities.
So, but if we build better habits outside and just say, what are the things I'm neglecting and how can I sprinkle that in throughout my day? That's when we start to not have to think about all of these little practices, every single movement, and we just free up our bodies in terms of pain and function and ability so much more. The other thing I wanted to go into is like a lot of the times when we're looking at knee pain, right? One of the things that usually gets programmed are hip exercises. And this is because, again, exactly what Dom was talking about. If the hip is kind of getting weak or anything, building up like clams and bridges and these common glute exercises with the band around the knees or a band around the ankles that we've probably heard about, which are great. But Dom and I like to go into a foundation prior to even okay, that's still an external part of the hip that we're building. We have to build from the internal portion before we build on the external portion.
Yeah, so that brings us back around to something we talk about all the time, which is this core and breath and being aware of and using our pelvic floor, the transverse abdominis, which is this big core set that we have around the diaphragm, and how that is pumping and working for us. I know in Jen's Optimal Body workouts, she has core workouts, core 1 through core 4, every month. And my favorite workouts, and I'm somebody who is an athlete, I always thought I had good core strength. My favorite workouts are core 1, the simplest ones, because when I do those, I truly feel that inner core activating so that I can then use the outer core to actually move, being those glutes, the muscles of the hip, the other back muscles that I'm foundationally supporting myself so that I feel like I can safely move without getting the different hip clicking or the other issues that I used to experience a lot. So making sure that we have a solid foundation to move from without compensating with our inner core movement.
Exactly. So when we build that inner core, we're just going to help to stabilize. Then those other exercises like the clams, the bridges, all that kind of stuff become way more effective when we start at our foundation and when we address the feet. Especially when we're talking like IT band is really common in runners, right? Yeah. And what are the shoes that runners are usually wearing?
Yeah, a lot of arch support. It doesn't give their toes much room to move, so we're just kind of jamming our toes into the end of a shoe.
Exactly.
Totally.
And so when your feet are just in that kind of compressed position a lot, we lose the ability to really use the bottom of the feet, those muscles that help to propel us forward and work for us. And we're relying on that shoe a lot. And that's why people end up utilizing and buying so many different shoes, because we're looking for that external fix. When, though, yes, shoes we love to talk about and they're supportive, but we have to address what's happening internally. And that's where, again, coming back to the toes, coming back to the feet, and just activating, waking up, exploring, rather than being obsessed of how they're moving, but like outside of shoes, outside of walking. Can you move your toes? Can you move your feet? Can you balance on one foot?
Yeah, and that's not to go to say every runner should take their shoes off and start running around barefoot.
No.
We'll probably have more issues if we all of a sudden just start going to barefoot running, but just understanding that we've been relying on those shoes to provide support for the longest time, and that's probably or could be making us compensate somewhere else because our feet aren't acting the way they're supposed to.
So it becomes really basic, actually, when we look at IT band. Rather than smashing out the IT band, rather than worrying about directly what is happening at my knee, but if we just start looking, what is my foot doing? Can I balance on one foot? Can I use my glutes? Can I use my inner core? And you just start working through these things consistently, you will notice, I promise, you will notice significant changes at how you feel at your knees.
There you go. So there's another PT Pearl from the Optimal Body Podcast talking you through IT band syndrome and some ways to start approaching that in your body. So if you loved it, subscribe, comment below and continue letting us know what you want to learn so that we can help you find your optimal body.